Hello to the enthusiasts of near-death experiences. Welcome to another experience. Before hearing this experience, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and support it by liking and commenting. I was 21 years old. In the year 2003, one night, without any particular event happening or having any physical issue, I fell asleep and dreamt that I was in a very large city. And this city was a building with 2 floors, full of winding corridors, and was vast. In each of these corridors, there were numerous rooms without windows or doors. There were 2 figures that I saw from behind. They were eerie. They entered these rooms. Whenever they entered a room, laughter could be heard from some rooms and screams and cries from others. Murmurs and conversations were audible. I knew that when those 2 entered each room, someone in that room died. I was very frightened at that moment. I woke up from the dream and thought that it wasn't just a dream but part of my experience. I realized I was very scared, and at the same time I felt extreme heat and dryness in my body. I wanted to get up and go get some water when I saw the same 2 figures that were in my dream standing at a distance from me, conversing about me. I understood that they had come to take my soul. At that moment, I felt as if my eyes no longer saw. Because before it was as if I couldn't see around me with my eyes and had a better vision of my surroundings. After that, it was as if I couldn't see around me anymore, and from within, I was seeing inside my body a very hot viscous liquid rising with intense heat from the tips of my toes towards my throat. Then it moved from my head to my throat. At that moment, it was as if I could think much deeper. I wasn't afraid of anything and was just an observer of events unfolding. The first thing that crossed my mind at that moment was that this is what they say: God is closer to you than your jugular vein. After that, I found myself in a space that was not the room in that place but in a dark, swirling tunnel. But behind the walls of that dark tunnel, there were layers of blue-colored stripes, and at the end of that tunnel, there was a luminous light. The light was intensely bright but not blinding. It was very kind and full of love. My perception at that moment was that this light was a quality of God. Again, I received an answer to one of my questions. I was experiencing God is kinder to you than your parents within myself. It was an incredibly beautiful feeling. I don't think there is anything more desirable. In that tunnel, time and space did not exist, and I was experiencing all the experiences together, even though they had no connection to each other. I was being pulled to the end of the tunnel at a floating pace. I felt a little scared when entering the tunnel. But immediately I felt a force accompanying me, getting to know me better than myself. It was very kind. In essence, the guiding force in that tunnel was that entity. At first, I perceived it as a force because I couldn't see it. But then I felt that the force was a person, and after that, I felt that there were several people with me. But I felt them as one entity. There I lived my entire life again without it moving faster. I don't remember much of it visually. However, I know that at that time I saw my fetal period. I relived all 21 years of my life and saw everything. The difference was that I experienced all those events with my emotions. It was as if a new identity inhabited that body, experiencing a new experience along with the traces it left on others. For example, when I lied, I felt the impact of that lie on the person I had lied to. I felt their distress, with a feeling far beyond the emotions of this world, while simultaneously suffering myself from the lie I had told. I felt good deeds in the same way. All these experiences happened simultaneously. Suddenly, the light at the end of the tunnel came very close to me and shone on my face. I didn't have a face there. These are examples to better illustrate. After that, I saw myself in a space that might be like what is called a void. I was floating there. I felt a sense of liberation. I had a very good feeling. Until now, I haven't experienced any feeling like that. This question arose in my mind: why do people fear death when it is so pleasurable? At that moment, I was aware that I was dead. Suddenly, the space changed, and I saw myself in a state where, contrary to the pleasant feeling I was experiencing at that moment, I was experiencing regret for something I never thought could be so important. I didn't think it was important at all. I started pleading. I said, please bring me back to the world so I can do this task to rid myself of this regret and bring me back here. But I was certain that I couldn't bear that distressing, agonizing feeling alongside the regret. The continuation of that path seemed very scary and bitter to me. I felt it was impossible. At that moment, one of the things that uplifted my spirits a lot was visiting the retirement homes regularly. There was a lady in one of these homes who was very kind, reserved, and very quiet. They were Christians. She never asked anything of me even though I begged her a lot. One day, I finally asked her to request something for me as a keepsake. And she asked me for something. I promised her that next time in 2 weeks I would get her an item and take it to her as she requested. This lady was very lonely and had no one to visit her. She said that during these years, all her love had been the radio. She asked me to bring her a radio. The regret for me was that I couldn't fulfill my promise. A promise that was very important to the other side, and despite all her effort, she had never asked me, and now that she decided to ask me, she really needed that radio. I was suffering from not being able to fulfill something that had not yet been executed. I started pleading for a few more hours to fulfill my promise and bring me back again. Because I really didn't want to return to my earthly life. I wanted to continue along that path in the good feeling. I was requesting to see them, giving me a chance to carry out my promise, when I saw they were taking me towards a wall that wasn't a wall, it was a halo. I knew that beyond this wall I couldn't return and there was no way back. There I began to think of anyone who could intercede for me and begged from them. While they were still taking me away and I was watching to see if my request was being accepted or not, I saw all the individuals whom I had asked to intercede for me as luminous beings around me. I knew they were those same individuals. They were composed of light moving around me. For a moment, I felt as if the me who was an entity at that moment was being drawn into those light beings. As if I was being dispersed, and suddenly I saw myself in my room on the bed. Again, the same eerie figures that were standing beside me at the beginning were still there. One of them said to the other one, "It's not his turn yet, let's go." As soon as this was said, I saw they were no longer there. At that moment, I felt as if I had gained physical capability and power. The first thing I did was to call my parents to see if my voice had returned or not. I listened with my ears, or with a tool that I understood sound with. I heard my own voice and realized that I had returned.